Hello guys, today is day 16th of the 25 days 25 MCQ series. So total of 625 MCQs will be given for free of cost. So if there is time, I'll do more. And all these are part of static part and also 1 year or 2 year old current affairs, because from that lot of questions are coming. And all the new current affairs and new static portions, everything is given in my test series, for which 2021 enrollment is already closed. If you are new to our channel, you can enroll to 2022 test series. Details already batch 1 details are there. Batch 2 I will announce within 2-3 days. So WhatsApp me. Okay, if you WhatsApp me, then you will be in connection with me, and then I can update you every day of the programs which we do. Okay, and all the playlist which is there, please go and watch it. It is like prelims is nearing, so you have to watch all prelim specific videos. We have kept a halt on all the mains series like um, post independent society, ethics. All these are on hold now. Only the prelims point of view we are putting videos. So watch every video which we upload. Okay, because it will give you some extra marks, and check your score every day when we do. Today, a lot of economics and schemes related questions we have put, so it will help you solve questions. Okay, so which of the following are false about Finance Commission reports? The state's share percentage in the divisible pool has steadily increased since the 11th Finance Commission. Income distance is a new parameter introduced for the first time in the 15th Finance Commission report. Okay, so here they are asking for false, and here if you see, both are false. One thing I'll tell you in your exam hall, if a question comes like steadily increased or steadily decreased, 99.99% that statement will be wrong. Okay, because in India there is nothing which is steadily increasing or steadily decreasing. Everything will be fluctuating. Okay, so that is wrong. Here also it is wrong. And income distance is a parameter which was used last time also. Only thing, it's a variation in the percentage of share. Okay, so that I'll show you. Here if you see, both are false. The state share is actually reduced by 1% now, because Jammu and Kashmir is now two UTs. So because of that, the state share little difference will be there. Little 1% less it has become. Okay, 42% it was, it became 41. If you see the graph here, the state share, it increased to 42 last time, and then now slightly 41 it became. And income distance is used in earlier reports also. So now this pie chart which you see here, that again you can pause and see, or in the textual format I'll explain you here. They use these kind of parameters. Okay, population, income distance, forest and ecology area. These are the things based on which they decide how much share goes to each state. Okay, from the center's fund. So here if you see 14th and 15th, what all difference happened, that comparative thing I have given. First thing is, two new parameters came, that is not income distance, it's actually demographic performance and tax efforts. So total of this six parameters should come 100%. Okay, so in 14th Finance Commission, if you see, population used to be calculated like 27.5 percentage. Okay, by taking 17.5 percentage from the 1971 census and 10 percentage from the 2011 census. Based on that, they used to decide like how much or money to give to each state. Okay, and now it is made 2011 census alone. Okay, and 15 percentage. So this is why a controversy was there. Okay, last year itself controversy was there, because southern states and all like Kerala or Karnataka and all, they have done a lot of population management measures, and now the population compared to 1971 in 2011, it is now well controlled. So it's very less people there. Okay, compared to, I am telling, north states like UP or Bihar who did not take the steps. So now what will happen is, they'll see like, okay, population is less here. So what will happen? The funding which goes to Kerala will be lesser, and UP, because they did not, they actually mismanaged the population, and they are going to get more funds. So that kind of problem is going to happen. Okay, so that is the reason everyone were debating on that. So now the share is reduced, and it is taken only 2011 census. So that is the debate point. And then here, income distance share decreased from 50% to 45%. So here also 5% decrease is there. Okay, income distance of a state is the difference between its per capita GSDP from that of the state with the highest GSDP. Okay, like Haryana has the highest that GDP kind of thing for the state. So the difference from that compared to your own GDP. Okay, that is the income distance. So that share was 50%. It is decreased to 45% now. Forest and ecology, like how much forest you have, that is actually increased 7.5 percentage to 10 percentage is increased. Then area remained the same. That was 15 percentage was the share in 14th also, 15th also, and two new parameters. Okay, so total if you add up for each 14th Finance Commission, 15th Commission, both will be 100. Okay, and now if you see here again, vertical devolution, as I told, states divisible pool share of 41% is given from the gross tax revenue. Okay, vertical devolution means nothing from the center to the state is giving, that is vertical. Okay, between states when something is given, it is horizontal. Okay, so here again, this is the basic details. The main things is that parameters only. From that questions can come. Okay, 99% question is expected. So please prepare this properly. Okay. Which of the following are true about National Textile Mission? Okay, Technical Textile Mission. It was proposed in Budget 2020-21. It will have its mission directorate under Ministry of Science and Technology. It has been approved of a fund of 1,40,000 crore. So this third statement, you would be already guessing it's a false statement, because this much lakhs crores and all is not going to go to such a technical textile scheme and all. Okay, maybe if it is a construction project or something like infrastructure, that kind of thing, this much lakhs will go, but else it won't go. So this is wrong. So three you can eliminate, and then you will be left with two only and one only. And here ministry for this one is not science and technology. So two is also wrong, and answer is one. It was announced in budget 2021. Okay, technical textiles are functional fabrics that have applications across various industries, including automobile, civil engineering, construction, agriculture. Okay, so that kind of textiles. Based on usage, there are 12 technical textile segments: agrotech, meditech, the same thing, but the name what they call. Okay, cloth tech and this geotech, pack tech, home tech, like that, the many things are there. These are all there, and for that a mission is introduced in budget 2021, and this much 1480 crore, not 1 lakh crore and all, 1480 crore has been given, and the mission directorate is obviously Ministry of Textiles. Okay, so we want to make ourselves a global leader, because like countries like Bangladesh and all, they are booming in their per capita income and everything, and even overtaken India actually last year. The per capita income of Bangladesh is now higher than per capita income of India. Okay, because of their population controlling things also going on, and their boom in textiles and leather and apparels, that kind of industries, they are growing like anything. Okay, so India is also wanting to catch up, because India has the potential and India can become number one obviously in this segment. So it's going on, and there are four components in that. Okay, research development, promotion development, expert promotion, education training, usual thing. Okay, which happens. So this individual funding and all, you need not by heart, but still just have a glance. And in mains, if a question comes, every point is here itself. Okay, so that is why please don't keep it aside or throw it away. Our materials are going to be valid for you lifelong, as long as you prepare for UPSC. Okay, even next year if you don't enroll to us, the same materials you can study and still you will pass. Okay, if you study it properly. The reason you would not have passed is because you did not study it properly. Okay, but everything will be there. The content will be there in our test series. Now, which of the following are true about National Monsoon Mission? Its coupled forecast model has shown phenomenal success in forecasting the excess rainfall received during August-September 2019. It was launched by Ministry of Earth Science. This actually, it is wrong, because it was not a success. It is actually failed. Okay, this model actually failed to predict or calculate that this thing. Okay, forecast that excess rainfall. So National Monsoon Mission is actually Ministry of Earth Science. So statement 2 is right, and it was launched not now, 2012 itself was launched. And then IMD used the monsoon mission dynamical model to prepare operational seasonal forecast of 2017 monsoon rainfall. And mission objective, build a ocean atmospheric model for improved prediction of monsoon rainfall, improved prediction of temperature, rainfall, extreme weather events. So all that prediction thing only, these monsoon missions will be obviously there. And here bodies involved are this Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, which is in Pune, and the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, Noida, and Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services in Hyderabad. Okay, these are the bodies involved. So this new model, it actually failed to forecast the excess rainfall which received during the 2019 time. So it's a fully coupled ocean atmospheric land model with advanced physics, increased resolution, and refined initialization as compared to the earlier version. And this is a state-of-the-art coupled climate model developed by National Center for Environmental Protection, USA. Okay, so that we tried to adopt it and we tried to do it, but it actually failed and we could not predict, because monsoon is always a very complicated phenomenon. Every year what happens, we can't predict which month will be rainfall. Even now, if you see many parts of the country, sometimes it's rainfall, sometimes it's not rainfall. So there is no definite pattern for it. Okay. NIRVIK scheme seen in the news is related to the Ministry of what? Okay, so NIRVIK scheme is actually, the full form is Niryat Rin Vikas Yojana. So it's a scheme to provide enhanced insurance cover and reduced premium for all small exporters. Okay, so export means obviously commerce and industry. Announced while presenting budget 2021, introduced by Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India. It is also called Export Credit Insurance Scheme. It is an insurance cover guaranteed that will cover up to 90% of the principal and interest. The cover will include both pre and post shipment credit. It currently provides credit guarantee up to 60% loss. So again, this detailing not very important, but you should know the ministry. The enhanced cover will ensure that foreign and rupee export credit interest will be below 4% and 8% respectively for exporters. This, wholly owned by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, was set up to promote exports from the country by providing credit risk insurance and related services for exports. So to promote exporters, to give them more confidence, we are insuring their things and all. So that is what it is happening. Okay. So if you see the timeline, 1957, this Export Risk Insurance Corporation was set up. 1964, it was renamed to Export Credit and Guarantee Corporation Limited. Then now it is renamed to ECGC Limited. Okay, so like that, the naming convention kept on changing, but from the 1950s, there is a insurance corporation body. Okay, zeroing methodology. Okay, this again UPSC is a typical kind of question, like what is it related to? So FATF, WTO, GST, defense and warfare. So if you did not hear of this, it will be very difficult to solve this kind of question. Okay, so this is actually WTO and anti-dumping duty. In simple terms, I'll try to explain. I've given detailed notes anyway. So zeroing methodology is actually, you should know what is anti-dumping duty. Okay, you know, like for example, like China, if they have a mobile or something in their country, okay, they are selling it for $500 per set or something, okay, suppose, and while exporting it to India and China and sorry, India and Philippines or USA, anywhere, they will give it at a lower price, okay, like $450 and all. So what will happen is it will be winning in exports because other countries and all will not be able to give it that price, but China will do mass production and then try to give things to this country, so everybody will buy China's thing. So that's actually they're dumping it. Okay, they're dumping their products at a lower price than the price what is in the home market, that is in their own market it is higher. Okay, so that is called dumping. So because it is becoming not competitive, so what the governments has the right, governments, WTO has approved it. Okay, it's permitted by the WTO, like India and all, we can put an anti-dumping duty. Okay, so that extra $50 we'll put as duty. So what will happen is there also $500 it was, here also $500. So everybody who is trying to sell the mobile, it will be $500 only. Okay, so it will not even affect our domestic people also who are here who is making the sets and all. They cannot give it like cheap prices like China. So it will help the domestic people also, and it will in the world level also competition will be there. Okay, so that is called anti-dumping duty. Now this zeroing methodology is something different or something related to this only. Like for that you have to understand one more example. This is the definition if you see. Okay, it is the practice of disregarding the higher price for the imported product vis-a-vis the price existing in the home market of the exporting country. Okay, meaning higher price. Here I am telling about lower price, like $500 and $450. Now, what if it is $500 in China and they are giving it for $600 to USA? Okay, so here in detail example I have step by step I have given. Okay, so first I told you $100 it's a dumping margin. Okay, a positive dumping margin. But here if you suppose China will give half of their, like suppose they have 20 mobile phones, 10 of them they will give at $600 and 10 of them they will give at $450. Okay, or $400. Okay, so here $100 is plus and here $100 is minus. So net will be zero. Okay. But USA, what they do, if you see the US methodologies of estimating dumping is different. Okay, they don't care like okay 400 half and 600 half, so net there is nothing, and so we don't need to impose duty. Sorry, anti-dumping duty. They don't follow that. Okay, many countries will leave it like that. They will tell like okay, no need of anti-dumping duty because overall it is zero net only. Okay, but USA, what they'll do, they will ignore that higher price thing. Okay. If you see, it follows zeroing methodology by disregarding all the negative dumping margin by considering them as zero. Okay. On the other hand, it imposes anti-dumping duty by focusing on that parts of the import where there is a dumping margin. Okay, meaning that $500 set, they are dumping at $400, so they will put $100 import duty here. Okay, anti-dumping duty here. Okay, they won't care that okay half of that you are giving at $600, so we'll just ignore it. That they won't do. So that method, okay, of considering that higher price, okay, that as zero, that is called zeroing methodology. Okay, it was in news. It was the detailed article there was in Hindu and Indian Express and all. That is why with a very like step-by-step example I wrote. You can pause it and see, you will understand. It's very self-explanatory. Okay, but this is the logic. So when a question comes, UPSC will not ask this much detail. They'll just ask what is it related to. It's related to WTO and anti-dumping duty. Okay. So again, pause and see what is the net effect of that, what will happen. So USA and WTO, that is the recent fight was there. Okay, USA, Trump and all shouted against it. Everybody shouted against WTO and it went to appellate body also. And now it is like, I think, exited out of that. Like USA is exiting from almost all bodies. So USA is not interested in working with them. Okay, so that also is the effect of the zeroing methodology. Fully accessible route announced by RBI recently is related to what? Rural citizen, political party, NRIs or exports and imports. Okay, so this again it's related to NRIs. NRIs they put a thing, okay, like an investment scheme kind of thing. There are specific government bonds, okay, which actually was not open to NRIs. Like domestic people, it was there. They were like residents, like see, eligible for investment by residents. That is now being open to the NRIs as well. Okay, so that lot of funding will come in. Okay, because government securities, you know, it's a like a safest place to go and invest money. Okay, because the return will be there, guarantee is there. So it's a tradable instrument issued by the central government or the state government. Such securities are short term, usually called treasury bills, with original maturities of less than 1 year. Okay, or long term, usually called government bonds or dated securities with an original maturity of 1 year or more. And if it's a short term, it's called treasury bills. If it's a long term, it's called government bonds. Okay, and these government securities carry practically no risk of default, and hence are called risk-free gilt edge instruments. Okay, so it is just being some specified securities are being open to NRIs for investment. That is the only thing. For that route they call it fully accessible route. Okay, that is the only theory which is written here. Again, you can still pause and read. And already there are different routes in RBI. Okay, just mentioning here, there is something called medium term framework. There is something called voluntary retention route. Voluntary retention route means through FPI's foreign portfolio investment, the investments are coming. And medium term, this thing means it is just showing you it's a thing like next 3 years how will be the spending of government, because government have to show their budget like this much will go into social things, economic things, policies, so that they have to show that is the expenditure framework. Okay, medium term expenditure framework. So two terminologies just to know. Okay, nothing very detailed. Which of the following are true about biomedical waste management amendment rule? Okay, 2018. In 2016 act came, rules came, and now it has been amended in 2018. So here animal houses have to phase out chlorinated plastic bags, excluding blood bags and gloves. All healthcare facilities shall make available the annual report on its website. So both are very simple, straightforward statements, and both are true also. Okay. So here you have to pause and read this. These are the salient features of all the thing. Whatever I told in two statements is given here. And after that, operators of common biomedical waste treatment and disposal facilities shall establish barcoding and global positioning system for handling of biomedical waste. So everything is going to be tracked properly and everything is going to be dumped properly. So for that, the pollution control board, everybody are involved. So just pause and see here. Okay, this is all the 2018 amendment rules. Okay, and here if you see there is a WHO blue book. Okay, so what is it? Just pause and see this. So this is the salient feature, but the 2016 Act, from that question can still come. Okay, so in the next slide I'll show you, because last year e-waste management rule, a detailed question came. So maybe biomedical waste management rules also they can ask. So here if you see, this is the original 2016 rules, okay, in which what all is mentioned. And also they have put color coding. They color coding for what? For different types of waste. Biomedical waste also different types will be there. They have color coding like yellow, red and all. Yellow, almost all the waste will come under yellow only. Okay, this pathological waste, human, animal body parts, soiled, infectious waste, medical waste, clinical lab waste, pharmaceutical waste. Okay, almost everything is here. And some will be there which are recyclable. So recyclable thing are put in red category. Okay, contaminated waste, recyclable. Okay, that is mentioned here. And after that there is one white and blue. Okay, and both are almost same only, which is the sharp waste. Okay, which can cause any puncture or tamper. That kind of sharp waste is here. And here medical glassware waste is there. And some books this won't be mentioned. Okay, it's mentioned here. Some sources it won't be mentioned. It is considered under this white itself. So white, blue, red and yellow. Color coding was also given under biomedical waste management rule. This you pause and see. Okay, because I don't want to read and waste the time. Which of the following are true? National Housing Bank is a wholly owned subsidiary of RBI. National Housing Bank is the sole regulator for housing finance companies in India. This is exactly how UPSC statements also will come. Anybody they ask, this is the kind of statements will come. So here if you see, this actually was true earlier, but now it is changed. This National Housing Bank, it had stakes from RBI wholly. Then later NABARD had some stakes. Now what happened is recently 2019, RBI and NABARD's entire stake is bought by government, and now this is a wholly owned subsidiary of the government. Okay, National Housing Bank is now under the government 100%. And National Housing Bank is not the sole regulator, because all the regulating powers and all now is given to RBI. Okay, so the ownership is gone to the government and the regulating powers is gone to RBI. These are new developments. That is why this MCQ is framed. Okay, so as I told, stakes of RBI and NABARD was handed over or sold to the central government. 2019, RBI took over the regulation of the housing finance companies from the National Housing Bank. So now NHB is not a regulator of housing finance companies. Okay, so again, formal definition. There is no formal definition of housing finance. In a draft released on its banking, this thing, RBI has set a formal definition of the same, like what it is. Okay, so that you pause and see what is the definition of housing finance. Not very important for your prelims and all. And here RBI also categorized HFCs as systematically significant and non-systematically important. Okay, so again, size, this much deposit and all. This not very important. Okay, you just have to know this who is the regulator and what is the funding pattern and who is the owner. Okay. Which of the following are false about pump priming? It involves minimum government spending and maximum private sector spending. It has not been tried in developing countries like India. So this, if you see, is wrong. It is the opposite of this. It is like maximum government spending. Okay, when now in this COVID time and all, lot of funding has been done. So that means the second statement is also wrong, because it has been tried in India, and India is doing pump priming. India is pushing a lot of funds into the people. So what will happen? The consumption, everything will increase. So when they consume, they are going to spend it somewhere else. So the private people also will gain. So everybody will gain. Okay, so you push in more fund to make the spending, which will again make the economy rise back to the original situation. That is how we have now got a V-shaped recovery also. We are recovering faster, and we have recovered and going towards higher GDP as per estimates from everybody. So that is because of this pump priming. So it's an action taken to stimulate an economy, usually during or after a recession period, through government spending and interest rate and tax reductions. The term pump priming is derived from the operation of older pumps. Okay, so how that name came, it's not important. Then usually small amount of government fund is started. Okay, and then it is pushed as per need. And the increase in demand experienced through pump priming can lead to increased profitability in the private sector, which assist the overall economic recovery. Okay, and it's a Keynesian economic theory, because Keynes. Okay, if you see John Maynard Keynes in your every economic textbook, first itself this kind of theories will be given. Okay, he is the one who told government intervention should be there. Okay, aiming at increased aggregate demand, and it can result to positive shift within the economy. Okay, so this kind of thing UPSC is not asking nowadays, the theory, but at least you should know whenever we say Keynesian economic theory, it is like government interference, and then everything is coming back to normal. Okay, now if you see, bank initiative was there, finance minister told like this much money will be pumped in. Okay, so that is why pump priming was in news. So that again, you pause and see, just like giving instructions to the bank. Okay, like try to get more borrowers, you do that festival kind of thing, like tent and these things you could have seen everywhere you go. There will be a tent or an umbrella, and one person will be sitting from the bank and trying to get more borrowers, trying to give more loans or credits or credit card. They are trying to push in lot of money to the people. So that kind of instructions is given. That is what is in the news. BioRock technology, which was in the news recently, are related to or is related to website building, cyber safety, mineral crystallization, sound engineering. So BioRock technology is actually the geography thing only. It is the mineral crystallization. Okay. So under seawater and all, under oceans and all, you know, there are a lot of minerals. Okay, the calcium and all these deposits are there. So when you pass current through it, okay, a little low voltage current, see, apply safe low voltage electric current. What will happen is all these minerals will crystallize and form a rock type thing. Okay, which is actually strong like concrete and all. So it will be formed like calcium carbonate structures will be formed, and this is the same thing which the corals and all make. Okay, coral reef, if you know, that is nothing but calcium carbonate reef only. So when we make like this, it will help the corals, because it is found that corals are growing at a very rapid rate on this kind of artificially made biorocks than the natural ones. Okay, so this methodology, okay, about that only this full explanation story is written. Okay, everything in 2 lines I told you, but again, if you want, you can pause and see. Biorock is also called secrete or cement. Okay, and here current is passed and it is formed, and it is found in this tropical white sand beaches, these places. So it will help faster growth. So anode, cathode, there are electrical things. Okay, so finally it will be formed, and technology helps corals, including highly sensitive branching corals, to counter the threats posed by global warming. Okay, so such a project is there in Gujarat. It is happening. See, coral restoration project in Gulf of Kutch. If you see Mithapur coast, there it is happening. So in 2020, that is why this question is formed. Okay, which of the following are true about integrated road accident database? Okay, so it is implemented by a body under Ministry of Home Affairs. It is supported by the World Bank. It is will be first piloted in selected state before implementing all over India. Okay, so this third statement, 90% of the schemes it is like that only. Always it is in selected states and then only taken across India. So that is true, and supported by World Bank, that is also true. But it is not a body under Ministry of Home Affairs. It is actually the National Informatics Center, which you know under the Ministry of Electronics. That is the one who is implementing the scheme. Okay, and it is developed by IIT Madras. Okay, not very important, but sometimes UPSC will ask. And then project cost is around 258 crore. It is supported by the World Bank. So it is nothing but it's just a platform kind of thing. Okay, where all these road accidents can be made available. Okay, like every people will be having access, the police, the public works department, everyone can put in their perspective and everything, investigation report, road engineering, vehicle condition, everything can be uploaded to here. So we'll have a great database. And why is it required? Because as per the reports and all world road statistics, if you see, India recorded the highest number of road accident death across 199 countries in 2018, followed by China and USA. Meaning India has the highest accident, then China, then USA. Okay, and this world road statistics is released by something called International Road Federation. So what is International Road Federation? Since 1948, it's a body which is a membership based organization, representing leading corporate and institutional players drawn from the road and mobility sectors worldwide, meaning all the road related such people, they are coming together, membership is taken, and there is a body called International Road Federation. They release this world road statistics. Based on that, India is number one in road death, accident death, and to track all that and to maintain all that, we have this integrated road accident database, which is implemented by NIC under the Ministry of Electronics and Electronics and Information, supported by the World Bank. This is the gist of the entire thing. Okay. Which of the following are true about Miyawaki model of afforestation? So it is a model to grow non-native species to an area without harming the native species. It guarantees better quality trees compared to natural forest. Both of these statements are wrong. Why? Because it is not non-native species. It's actually the native species itself, meaning a place is there. So that native, whatever is growing, that itself again you are reintroducing, but in bulk quantity and like kind of artificial forceful forestation it is actually. So that is why it does not guarantee better quality trees. Okay, it will be actually having lesser quality trees. The trees are not will look like that only, but it will more look like a park, not like a forest. It will have all the trees, it will have all the shade, everything will be there, but it may not be able to bring the right amount of rainfall like how the trees are able to bring now in forest, or it may not have that medicinal property which that natural forest has have. It is just like a for your wood industry and all, a lot of trees you can grow at bulk. Okay, and so oxygen production or such kind of things, it will be useful, but it will not be equivalent to the forest, actual forest trees. Okay, so that same thing in full detail I have given here. The criticism section here, that is the same thing I told. Lacks some quality of natural forest, medicinal property will not be there, ability to bring rain will not be there. I mean, it will be there, but it will be lesser. Okay. Then again, it's like fast growing plantation. So it's actually for a lot of wood and recreational uses, bird watching and bushwalking, this kind of basic park kind of setup it will be. Okay. But you can grow a lot of trees together. It's a fast growing method. So you can bring back, okay, it's a Japanese model and it is being implemented across the world now. Everybody are doing it. Because we also, like for road construction, everything, we'll be cutting down the trees and we have to bring back the trees also. So for that, we have to have a model of fast growing forestation, and this is that method. Okay. So here if you see, the native trees are identified and divided into 4 layers: shrub, subtree, tree and canopy. Okay, so it will be having very dense canopy also, meaning every tree will be very close, so sunlight will not go through it. Okay, so it will not reach the bottom. So in bottom, this weeding and other unwanted creepers and other problems will not be there. Okay, because sunlight itself will not reach there, they cannot grow. Okay, so that is the detailing. Again, 1 minute, pause and read this. Which are the following are true about Prime Minister's National Relief Fund? Okay, the PM Care Fund I already showed in one of the episode, I think 2 episodes before this. So now is the another fund which already existed. Okay, it was set up during the tenure of Rajiv Gandhi. The fund consists entirely of public contributions and does not get any budgetary support. It accepts only voluntary donations by individuals and institutions. The fund is recognized as a trust under the Income Tax Act. So this statement number 2, 3, 4 are true, and it is the features of that fund. But it is not Rajiv Gandhi. Right from the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, 1948 or something, he had thought of this fund. Why? Because that time we had this migrant issue, refugee problem. Pakistani people were going, Indian people were coming. That problem was there. So for their relief, a fund was made. Okay, that was how the National Relief Fund was made. So if you know the story, then you will obviously know it is Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, because it was there in the 1940s itself. So for that time it was established, as I told, but now it is used for all the calamities. Okay, the natural calamities, any problem is there, that relief. Okay, flood, cyclone, earthquake and all. So this, if you see, the other things which I told in the statements question are all correct. Okay, the voluntary donation, and Prime Minister itself is the chair. If the PM Care, if you compare PM Care also, Prime Minister is the chair. Okay, the trust will be different, like here trust under Income Tax Act, and here I think Prime Minister is the one who decides almost everything. But there in the trust we have Home Minister and that Finance Minister, External Affairs Minister, some people are there. Okay, so try to watch that video again. PM Cares have explained fully. So small differences are there, and both I think are not audited by CAG. And this is not even audited, I think, this PMNRF. The other one will be audited by some other small group. So like that, slight difference are there. That if you Google also, you'll get what is the basic difference between PMNRF and PM Care Fund. Okay, but the detailing is given here. There are some tax benefits for that, and there are some exemptions are there. Okay, and from budget, there is no support for that. Contributions has to come from individuals. Okay, and there will not be any specific contribution, meaning if you are donating to it, you cannot tell like give this fund which I am giving only to that particular cyclone which happened there. You cannot specifically mention anything. Okay, if the donor specifies the amount is meant for a particular purpose, then it is not accepted. Okay, that fund is not accepted. So these are very minute statements which usually other coaching institutes don't mention, so I just kept it here. Okay, now partial credit guarantee scheme recently in the news. Okay, so this even 1.0 was there, 2.0 was there, and this extended partial credit guarantees there. Like that, many things are going on. This is all the same thing only. Okay, it's all to uh, help the people who are now having problems because of the COVID and all these situations. Okay, like the this answer is non-banking financial company. The NBFCs and all will not be in too much profit and too much this thing like the normal public sector banks and all. So to help them, this kind of schemes were done. Okay, in this, if you see this chart, you pause and see. Okay, it's just the values like up to 1 lakh crore it will help, or the first 10% loss government will take care, and then it's a one-time partial credit guarantee scheme. Okay, so what will happen is NBFC will have lot of pooled asset. Okay, like whenever a bank is there, they'll have a lot of asset, and it will have a lot of credit rating also. Like these are like AAA plus, these are BBB plus, these are CCC plus. So it's based on like whether it will default or whether it's a good kind of asset. Okay, else it will become a non-performing asset later. So if there are good asset and if it is worth investing, the government is telling we will buy a lot of your asset. Okay, and then it will be given to public sector bank, and they will also gain a lot of money by asking others to invest on that. So like that asset taking from, okay, taking assets from the, I'm telling only the good asset, okay, which has I think BBB plus rating. That kind of asset from NBFC is bought by the government and given to the public sector bank, and then making more money out of it. Okay, and meanwhile, because we took asset from NBFC, they will be paid a huge advance amount first itself. So that kind of work, okay, that is totally that's the gist of the entire partial credit guarantee scheme. Okay, so now if you read this, you will understand the same thing only. If you see here, allowing public sector banks to purchase high rated, that is BBB plus or above, pooled assets from financially sound NBFCs and housing finance company. Okay, so this is the statement. Now UPSC, they will purposely put like some like failed NBFCs or maybe poor bonds. That will not be wrong. Okay, we are actually buying high rated bonds from financially sound NBFCs, and then it is given to the PSB, public sector bank. Okay, a pool of asset is basically a securitization of loan portfolio. That is conversion of a loan into a marketable security, typical for the purpose of raising cash by selling them to other investors. So the PSB will take it and then sell it to other investors and make more money out of it. So they are sold by these people to banks in return for an advance payment. Okay, they get the much needed money and banks get the interest paying assets. Credit rating is what is credit rating? It's an analysis of credit risk associated with the financial instrument. Meaning it's a like good asset means it will be given AA plus or then BB plus. But if it's a bad one, there is a chance of default means it will be C or D. And there are a lot of credit rating agencies in this world, and they'll be going on giving ratings like this. Okay. So this again the updates. Okay, as I told, in this COVID time, they kept on updating. Like May 2020, some update came, to November 2020, some update came. They are just extending it more. Like first it was, as I told, only to the best kind of NBFCs. Then they told they will extend it to cover more NBFCs. Okay, even if the credit rating is little lower, they will give. So that you have to go and see the current affair of latest one, like what is going on. But UPSC may not go into detail. Okay, basically it was for NBFCs. But here if you see little low credit rating, here AA rating is considered. So like that small differences will be there. Okay, AA minus bond is here. So that you just pause and see what are the changes. And also if you have done my current affair, you will know what is the latest update. But basically this is the thing, helping NBFCs to sell the assets. Which are the following are true about investment clearance cell. It was announced in budget 2021. It will provide end-to-end facilitation and support to create more opportunities for youth and remove roadblocks. So this again is about entrepreneurship. Okay, like suppose you are starting a company, you want to set up a manufacturing unit. So you will need investment and you need the details of everything. So based on that, okay. So Union Finance Minister in 2020 speech announced the setting up of investment clearance cell that will provide end-to-end facilitation and support to create more opportunities for youth and remove roadblocks. Okay, so this DPIIT, okay, which is under the Ministry of Commerce, they mentioned this thing will link all the central government ministries and state government to provide information on land bank, incentive schemes, taxation policies. All these things are needed for an entrepreneur. If he's setting up something, he need to know all these things. So that will all be there in this investment clearance cell. Okay, it will help them to make informed decision to set up manufacturing units. Okay, so remaining is all that simply storytelling. What is land bank details? What is end-to-end facilitation? Okay, and the news, if you see, Civil Aviation Minister has set up. So each ministry can set up something like this. Okay, based on the projects which is under them. So investment clearance cell was there, and here there's a 10-member cell headed by Joint Secretary of the Ministry. So it will serve as a single window system for attracting investments. Okay, so you can get into touch with the investors. You can touch like a land bank, a taxation policy. Everything will be there, and so you can set up your company properly. Business immunity platform. This is also something related to that only. Okay, which is recently launched by the Invest India. So this, if you see, the COVID situation. Okay, now everybody want to do business with others. So what is the government doing? What are other companies doing? Whether they are taking sanitation, they are doing the vehicle and all. It's like full clean now, or they are using doing business through video conferencing. So this business, how it is running in this COVID situation, that entire details is now put on a platform. Okay, everybody will be registering there. Everybody will be putting their updates there. Okay, so that state government, central government, companies, everyone will be there. So that platform is called Business Immunity Platform. Okay, designed as a comprehensive resource to help business and investors get real-time updates on India's active response to COVID-19. Okay, so it's like 24/7 available, and if you see here, maps and highlights the response mechanism put in place by leading Indian companies such as sanitation of staff vehicles, disabling biometric attendance, usage of video conference, developing online solutions. So how is all companies working, so that you can see and you can work with them or do more business with them, that you can follow. Okay, the protocol and all you can follow. That is why this platform was formed. Which are the following are true about Gobar Dhan scheme? It was introduced in Budget 2021. It is placed under PM's Kisan scheme and help double farmers' income by 2022. It is launched as a joint initiative of Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Environment, and Ministry of Renewable Energy. So this, if you see, all three are wrong. Okay, because it was there since 2018-19. Then it is not under PM Kisan. It is under this Swachh Bharat. Okay, Swachh Bharat, the rural one, Gramin. So Swachh Bharat Gramin one, under that it is there, and it is not these ministries. It is Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. Okay, so these three are the correct ones. Question, everything is wrong. And in that, mainly two components are there in this Gramin one. One is this open defecation free villages you have to make, and then manage that solid and liquid waste. Okay, these are the two main components under Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. And so under this Gobar Dhan scheme, it is basically these things only, like the cattle dung or the poultry waste. All these things you convert into this compost, bioslurry, biogas, bio-CNG. Okay, because this will be the future. You need the non-fossil fuel kind of things and all. So this kind of things, agricultural waste is used to make fuel. Okay, and WHO is telling a lot of indoor pollution is there in this country, and many people, women, children, are suffering, especially in villages. So because of that, we are trying to make new forms of energy. So biogas, the most common form of biofuel, is a clean form of energy and can be obtained from cattle dung, poultry droppings, crop residue, kitchen waste, etc. And it shall benefit rural people in general and women in particular from this clean fuel, and also through improvements on health and improvement in cleanliness. This initiative shall support biodegradable waste recovery and conversion of waste into resources. This shall provide economic and resource benefits to farmers and households, and also support creating clean villages, which is an objective of Swachh Bharat Mission. Okay, then again, funding pattern all is there. If you see, up to 7 lakhs for a gram panchayat having up to 150 household, 12 lakh for 300 household, 15 lakh for 500 household, 20 lakh for 500 household. So based on the number of household and all, the funding also will differ. Okay, for this SLW means solid liquid waste management project. Okay, and here the central and state both are funding 60:40. Okay, so it's a centrally sponsored scheme and not a central sector scheme. If it was a central sector scheme, it would have been 100% from the center. Okay, and only those gram panchayats which have not availed these funds under this are eligible to receive the financial assistance from Gobar Dhan scheme. Okay, meaning already there are some funds and all given under this Swachh Bharat. So if you have not availed that, then you will get extra money for Gobar Dhan scheme. Okay, so there are all different limits and all be there, and main 3 E's are there, which they mentioned here: energy, empowerment, and employment. Okay, energy is generated, empowering the rural people, and also employing the people. Okay. Now, Typhoon Damre, seen in news. Okay, this was 2 years back, had a devastating effect on which place? Okay, so it is actually Vietnam, and this question is put to show you the map. Okay, this is actually the South China Sea, which is the most controversial one. China, they'll keep expanding, and they are building artificial islands. Actually, they have machines which actually, if you put it in the ocean, they will mine or take out the sand from the below the ocean and then build islands. Artificial islands are made here. And why? Because as per the international ocean rules and all, whenever you are having a land, 200 nautical miles around that will be your place. Okay, so these people simply will build artificial islands here and there and tell like, okay, now 200 nautical miles around that is my place, because China want to always expand. So this area, okay, this, if you see this dashes, it's actually called 9-dash line. Okay, imaginary 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 9-dash line. This area is where, which is in the controversy. Okay, this is a UPSC question. 9-dash line in news is related to what? It is South China Sea. Okay, here these people, if you see, Vietnam is fighting, Brunei is fighting, Philippines is fighting, China is fighting, Taiwan is fighting. All these people are fighting for the same place. Okay, and here important islands, this Pratas, Paracel, Scarborough, and this Partly. This are also UPSC once asked all these things, locations. Okay, And here, if you see, Vietnam and Cambodia all have access to water, but Laos is a landlocked country. Like that, you have to know, okay, certain things which is important. Then here there's Guam, about which UPSC already asked. Here USA has their naval base, and USA, what they'll do is every one day, 1 week or 2 week, they'll simply do some missile testing or something. So they'll drop the missiles into here, South China Sea. So they're just showing that this is not China's place. This anybody has access to it. Everybody can access this. So they're keeping on doing lot of testing here. Okay, so they have missiles. They have actually, to help Malaysia and all, they have moved their lot of guns and missile rockets and everything is here. Okay, that also was a UPSC question. Like in USA gave which one to Malaysia. That also was one question. So try to find out more details which is there in current affair. But the map is always the core. Without knowing the map, you cannot understand the current affairs. Okay. The island of Reunion is a major military base of France in the Indian Ocean. India conducted joint patrols with the French Navy, Corpet, coordinated patrols, for the first time from the Reunion Island in March 2020. This is true, and that is why this question is formed. So here, if you see, Africa is here, and here Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion Island, which is under France. Then here there are many disputed places. Okay, here there will be another Diego Garcia is there, where USA and UK are fighting for that place. Okay, then Mauritius, Rodriguez, Agalaga Islands, again India is investing. It is actually, India is, I think, having a very big project coming up here. Okay, and it will be like a post also for India, because China is going on negotiating with Maldives and other places, Myanmar and all. So India also needs lot of places, because China else will take up this area also, like how they took up South China Sea. They will try to take the Indian Ocean also. Okay, and this African region here, one Zambezi River is there, which falls into Indian Ocean. This was a UPSC 2019 question, like Zambezi River flows into which ocean? So it is Indian Ocean. So like this, wherever maps are there, try to by heart each and everything there. Okay, because as a UPSC aspirant, and if you are a serious aspirant, you cannot afford to lose even 2 marks simply, okay, on maps. So this again, Agalaga Islands, as I told, Indian military, strategically it is important. And India is building this coastal surveillance radar grid, and also we are getting a lot of FDI funding also from Mauritius. So we have a great bonding, okay, as of now with Mauritius, and it will counter the Chinese strategy of string of pearls. Okay, meaning string of pearls nothing but they are string of islands and contacts they are trying to have, so that they can capture that entire place. Santhal rebellion aimed to end British revenue system and zamindari system. Santhal rebellion, also known as Santhal Hul, was native rebellion in eastern India. So this both are true statements and very basic general statements. So it's same here. Only thing is the names you should know here, the leaders. Okay, there is some Murmu brothers, the Kanu, Sidhu, and Bhairav and Chand. Okay, most of the textbooks will mention only Kanu and Sidhu, but actually they were 4 brothers. Okay, Bhairav and Chand, these 4 people were there. And Bodo land movement and all is in news, so 2 lines is mentioned about here. Okay, since 1993 there is a Bodo Accord, and people were fighting for their own land, Bodo land, and Bodo Land Autonomous Council was created. Even now, every day if you see news, Assam or Mizoram or Manipur, they'll be fighting for again their own land and all. So please stay updated. And these are different types of tribal movements. Okay, if you see this Bastar in Chhattisgarh region, this Manipur, we have Kulki uprising, Kurchia rebellion is there, then Koli tribes in Maharashtra. So this are all already in revision charts, and my test series, my lectures, everything is covered, but I just listed few more. Okay, so that you will know. Okay, here this Muttade term is landlords. Koya tribal community in Andhra is there against these landlords. So try to by heart. The primary market is where companies issue a new security not previously traded on any stock exchange. Secondary market is where investors buy and sell securities they already own. Commercial paper is a secured long-term equity instrument issued by individuals. So these are like just definitions you need to know, not more than that, because you are not going to become an economist or stock market broker or something. You are going into UPSC. So just by heart this or know the basic thing. Okay, when a company for the first time, okay, suppose they are issuing their share or bond and all, like big companies are doing every year, you will see like, okay, they issued their IPO, okay, initial public offering. When they are first time giving out their share, they are going public for the first time. Till then they were a private limited company. They are going public. They are giving their shares to the public. So that when you do, that place is called primary market. Okay, so primary market is where you have not traded that previously on the stock market. That security or share when you issue, that is called primary market. Secondary market means already you are a public company. Your shares are there. People have already bought their shares, and now trading is going on. Okay, trading up and down, selling, buying, those things are going on. That market is called secondary market. So 1 and 2 both are correct, but third one is entirely wrong, because commercial paper is like a bond. Okay, so it is like it is not secured. It is not long term, it is short term. So it's unsecured, short term, and it's a debt instrument. Okay, it's not an equity instrument. Debt instrument means you are borrowing money. Okay, instead of that, you are giving a bond. Okay, or giving a paper. So that commercial paper. So that is a bond or debt instrument. Other one is equity instrument. Equity instrument means you are giving equity, you are giving stakes, you are giving ownership or legal thing to your thing, okay, your company or something. That is equity. So equity, and so too much technical you don't go because it's not required for you. Okay. So here again the same things I mentioned. Borrowers issue bonds to raise money from investors willing to lend them money. Somebody is going to give you money, you give them bond. Okay, like government bonds I told you some time back. Government security means you are issuing that and somebody can invest in that. And then commercial paper. It is a commonly used type of unsecured short-term debt instrument issued by corporations, typically used for meeting the short-term liabilities. Okay, so it is not long-term, it is not secured. And primary market, secondary market, I already told you. Okay, and this if you see is a Google. That's why if any term economics, if you have doubt, no, simply Google, and whichever first website comes or whatever Google answers comes, that one line is enough for you. UPSC will not ask you the detailing of it, only the one line definition they will play with it. Okay. So their debt instruments are tools an individual, government entity or business entity can utilize for the purpose of obtaining capital. Okay, like here loan, bond, credit card, credit line, all these things are kind of a debt instrument. And equity means documents that act as legal evidence of proof of ownership, right, share certificate, company firm, meaning you are giving your stakes of the company or you are giving something else, not a paper. Okay, so that is when it is equity comes. Okay, equity instruments. And primary and secondary, again same thing. Examples I just wanted to show you, so I mentioned this. Okay, examples are initial public offering, IPO, bonus, right share issue, private placement, preferential allotment. All these in my economics test for my students, detailed explanations there. But for you now, this question only examples are here. Okay, and secondary market include all type of stock exchanges. Okay, the NYSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, Tokyo Stock Exchange, every big stock exchange across the world. These are places where trading, buying, selling happens every day. Okay. Which of the following are true about Deeper Bill in Assam? Okay, so it's a Ramsar site. It's a permanent freshwater lake. That is true. It has been recently declared. That is wrong. Okay, because since 2002, it is under Ramsar Convention. Then it is claimed that this bill was an important dockyard of the Mughals. That is also true. So answer 1 and 3 only. Okay, and this year, 4 Ramsar sites is there from India, 2 from Gujarat and 2 from Haryana. Okay, so try to find out the names. It is there in my current affair. In June or July magazine, it will be there. But try to by heart it. Questions may come. Okay, remaining you pause and see. It's simply story about Deeper Bill, which is not very important. Okay, it's in Assam, so it will be obviously near Brahmaputra. So what are the people there? What are their income? What are their fishing habits? That kind of things are mentioned here. Okay. Defense procurement procedure in India was promulgated in 2016. It was actually since 2002 it is there, so not 2016. And 2020 it introduced a new category of buy global, manufacture in India with minimum 50% indigenous content. This is actually true. So what is this defense procurement procedure means? How we are going to get our defense things. Okay, whether we are there will be many things like make India, buy India, or buy global. Okay, or manufacture global, manufacture India, like that. Different types will be there. They will tell like, oh, this much quantity of missiles we'll make here, this much quantity of missiles we'll buy there, or we'll, if you see this new category, buy global, manufacture India, meaning you will buy something from Russia, suppose, but you are just buying the idea. Okay, and then you are manufacturing it here in India. And also you will use 50% of Indian materials from here. We will not import a lot of spare parts from there. We will have our own indigenous content into it and we will make it. So it is more profitable for India, more revenue will be coming for Indian domestic people. Okay, so that category has been introduced. So that is a correct statement, second one. But the promulgation is from 2002, it is there. Okay, and multiple times it is revised. And 2020, as I told, this is there. So that again, you Google DPP, you will get a full chart of what all types of thing they have. As I told, buy Indian, buy global, buy and make in India, or buy or completely global, you buy a not making something here. So manufacture in India. This 5-6 categories are there. Just Google it and by heart it. Okay. But it's self-explanatory. Whatever the name is, it is self-explanatory. Silk Samagra scheme is implemented by Khadi and Village Industry Commission. Then between 2017 and 20, government allocated more than 2,000 crore for the scheme to develop sericulture. Sericulture means the silk related thing. Okay. So this first statement is wrong because silk, obviously you have a central silk board in Bangalore. So that is what will implement it. So first statement is wrong. But the second statement is correct. Okay. 2,000 crore actually was invested. Okay. 2161 crore was invested and central silk board is the one who is implementing it. Okay. So here it is a statutory body established in 1948. It works under Ministry of Textiles. Okay, headquarters is in Bangalore. Like this, go and try to find out where is Central Coffee Board, Central Tobacco Board, Central Rubber Board. There are many board. Okay, try to find out all that locations. It's important. So I'll wind up this video. It was a lengthy session. So I'll come up with the next episode. Thank you and have a nice day.